Namaskar, this is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Never thought we'd report something like this, but this is what things have come to. Americans are sympathizing with Osama bin Laden. These are young Americans, the TikTok generation. We'll tell you why they support the man who was behind the worst terror attacks on American soil and how this is a dangerous trend. Meanwhile, in Israel, the war has reached the tunnels. We'll show you how Israel is demolishing Hamas tunnels using robots and explosive gel. In the US, what has the Biden-Xi meeting achieved? And why Beijing seems to be happy with the visit, even though Biden calls Xi a dictator. Why Pakistani experts are pushing conspiracy theories about India's World Cup wins. What the nuclear deal between America and the Philippines means for the region. How India is trying to rescue 40 construction workers from a collapsed tunnel. How Argentina is heading for the world's first AI election. And what's the towel skirt that is selling for 77,000 rupees? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Germany hosts Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. It comes amid Erdogan's outburst calling Israel a terror state. In contrast, Germany has offered unconditional support to Israel. Many had asked the German Chancellor to scrap Erdogan's invitation. Russia sends its first free grain shipments to Africa. In July, President Putin had promised to send 200,000 tons of free grain to 6 African countries. It came shortly after Russia withdrew from a UN-brokered grain deal with Ukraine. A French senator is held for allegedly spiking an MP's drink. Joël Guerriou is accused of drugging an MP with the intent of assaulting her. Tests reveal the woman had ecstasy in her system. The 66-year-old senator denies the charge. Alibaba shares collapse after it cancels its cloud service spin-off. Shares in the Chinese e-commerce giant fell by 10% in Hong Kong. Alibaba said it was forced to take the step due to the US-China chip war. Washington has curbed the export of chips to Beijing, citing national security. And South Korea will ban eating dogs. Seoul unveils a plan to take it off the menu by 2027. The controversial practice has been criticized both at home and abroad. The president and the first lady are animal lovers. They have 6 dogs and 5 cats. Social media continues to surprise. Actually, scratch that. Social media continues to disgust. Guess what the latest trend on American TikTok is? Defending Osama bin Laden. And no, we have not mixed up the name. We are talking about the former Al-Qaeda chief, Osama bin Laden, the man behind the 9/11 attack. TikTok users in the US are sympathizing with him. They say he was wronged by the United States, that his actions were justified. Now, I know you have questions, like how does someone even arrive at this conclusion? And why now? So first, let me tell you the backstory. In 2002, Osama bin Laden wrote a letter. He called it a letter to America. And in that letter, he gave reasons for plotting the 9/11 attacks. One of them was Israel. Bin Laden accused the US of supporting Israel, of driving out Palestinians. Of course, that was not the real reason. The real reason was that bin Laden was a radicalized mass murderer, a terrorist. But tell that to users on TikTok. They found the full text of this letter on The Guardian. They linked it to Israel's war on Hamas. And then they circulated it all over TikTok. Soon it became a hashtag. Hashtag letter to America. And guess how many clicks it had? More than 14 million by Thursday. 14 million clicks. Now, normal people would be disgusted by this. People who know what happened on 9/11, but not America's TikTok generation. Here's how some of them reacted to bin Laden's letter.
Reading this letter, it becomes apparent to me that the actions of 9/11 and those acts committed against the USA and its people were all just the buildup of our government failing other nations.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving me the greatest sense of relief. If you're Muslim and you've lived in the US since 9/11, you know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all coming to light because of Palestine.
I just read A Letter to America, and I will never look at life the same. I will never look at this country the same.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read A Letter to America. It is literally the craziest thing I've read in a while. And while I can't say that I'm that surprised, I am pretty shocked.
Just to be clear, this is completely false. Osama bin Laden did not plot 9/11 for the Palestinian cause. In fact, the Palestinian Authority condemned the attack. Their leader was Yasser Arafat, and he donated blood for the victims of 9/11. But who will tell that to the TikTok generation? They're convinced that bin Laden was right. Now, the propaganda is not surprising. It has existed as long as human history. What's surprising is people believing it so easily. All it takes is a Google search or picking up a book or talking to people. You can easily figure out if something is right or not. Instead, these users blindly believe the video. What does TikTok have to say about this? It's now taking down these videos. The hashtag has also been removed. The company says it violates the platform's rules. At the same time, TikTok is also downplaying the whole episode. Listen to what they've said. The number of videos on TikTok is small, and reports of it trending on our platform are inaccurate. This is not unique to TikTok and has appeared across multiple platforms and the media. Now, we can understand people pushing propaganda on the platform. TikTok has 1.5 billion users. It's not possible to monitor all of it. But when a hashtag gets 14 million clicks, you really have no excuse. It should have been removed much earlier. Having said that, TikTok is right about one thing. It's not just them. Every social media platform is guilty here. Take Instagram, for example. Take a look at this video that has gone viral on Instagram.
صدام حسين المجيد بالإعدام شنقا حتى الموت لارتكاب الشعب كجريمة ضد الإنسانية وفق المادة 12 أولا أليف بدلالة المادة 12.
This video says the world is missing Saddam Hussein. Is it though? This is a man who used chemical weapons on his own people. Yes, he supported Palestine, but that does not justify his crimes against humanity. And for the record, that video has got more than 3 million views. Why do you think this happens? It's impossible to name just one single factor. It's a combination of many. For starters, age. Most of the users sharing this bin Laden letter are young. They were born after 9/11, meaning they do not have first-hand information. Everything they know is from other sources. In this case, that source happens to be TikTok. Secondly, the nature of information sharing. You see, reading a book takes time. Watching a documentary also takes time. So does attending a class. It takes time and effort. But do you know what doesn't? A TikTok video. Most of them are 1 minute long, 60 seconds. You see and absorb at the same time. You do not bother to cross-check or analyze. Another issue is the algorithm. It is designed to show you things you like or believe. For example, assume you believe that Bigfoot is real. Then social media will flood you with Bigfoot videos, conspiracy theories, sketchy CCTV footage, all kinds of fake stuff. Of course, Bigfoot videos are harmless, but replace that with vaccines or 9/11. Then you have a national crisis. Now, we need to change this culture. Users, especially children, must be taught where to source information from, how to verify it, how to analyze it. If not, such TikTok trends will keep popping up. And governments too must take notice. They must force social media giants to take responsibility to fix their algorithms, because right now it is hurting people. It's like feeding drugs to people you know are addicts. So action is needed. India, for example, banned TikTok way back in 2020. It was among the first countries to do so. India's reasons were different, but the end goal was the same: to protect its people. And this is not about freedom of expression or opinion. This is about facts. Because while people are entitled to their own opinions, They are not entitled to their own facts. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the bombings continue, and so does Israel's operation at Al-Shifa. It's Gaza's biggest hospital, now a war zone. Israel says the hospital has a command center of Hamas, and the Americans agree. Now, Israel is trying to make the charges stick. Every day they release new videos that are presented as proof of Hamas terrorist facilities at the hospital. Let me show you the latest one. Israel says it's a tunnel. It opens near the Al-Shifa hospital, and the IDF is said to have found weapons here.
IDF forces found a tunnel shaft in Shifa hospital, and engineering forces are currently uncovering the infrastructure there. We also found a vehicle that had been prepared for the massacre on the 7th of October and didn't leave for the mission. And we also found many weapons in it.
What kind of weapons were these? Israel is yet to give details. Their operation is far from over. Today, Israel's military chief was in Gaza. He assessed the IDF's progress so far, and he declared that Israel is close to dismantling Hamas infrastructure.
In the forward development of the campaign, with what you have done here with these battalions, Division 36 and 252, we are quite close to destroying the military system that existed in the north of the Strip.
That's a reference to the tunnels, the biggest strategic asset of Hamas. They use tunnels to hide weapons and men, also to smuggle goods in and out of Gaza, and to launch attacks. According to some reports, Hamas is also keeping hostages in these tunnels, which is why Israel is targeting them. The IDF has two goals here. First, to rescue the hostages, and second, to weaken Hamas by dismantling their most important routes. And how do they do this? Israeli forces have developed a three-step process. The first step is identifying the tunnel, and that is perhaps the hardest part because the tunnel network is like a labyrinth. It is spread across Gaza. The entry points merge with the surroundings. They're hidden behind bushes, disguised behind ordinary-looking buildings and doors, and reinforced by concrete. The Israeli army deploys tracker robots for this. They keep an eye on the suspicious entry points, and once a tunnel is detected, the robots scout the terrain. The entire infrastructure is mapped out. And once the Israeli forces know the lay of the land, they plan a strike. Engineers are deployed with ground troops. They fill the tunnel with exploding gel. Once the explosives are in, they press the detonator. That's how Israel dismantles Hamas tunnels. Last week, the IDF gave some numbers. They said 130 shafts have been destroyed so far. But they did not reveal how many tunnels they took out. And this is not an easy assignment. First, because of the hostages. If they are inside the tunnels, the explosions could hurt them. So the Israeli forces have to tread with caution. The other problem is the nature of these tunnels. It doesn't take much to rebuild them. In some cases, the setback to Hamas is temporary. But dismantling the tunnels is a priority for Prime Minister Netanyahu. He has vowed to destroy Hamas and he wants complete victory. And that's impossible without taking out these tunnels. In the meantime, what is Hamas doing? Yesterday, they held a press conference calling on the United Nations to intervene.
We have been and are still calling on the United Nations and international organizations, and for 2 weeks now, to form an international committee to review the reality of hospitals and identify the lies of the occupation. Because we realize that this occupation will resort to deception, lies and distorted narratives.
Hamas says Israel is lying. Of course they would. The problem is, they're not the only ones saying this. Netanyahu is under immense pressure to justify why his army must raid hospitals. And he's losing support at home. Look at the results of a new survey. Support for the Prime Minister has crashed. If Israel goes to polls today, Netanyahu will lose to his rival Benny Gantz. And he's not the only one losing, by the way. Even his reluctant ally, Joe Biden, is losing support. Biden's approval rating has tanked further. Almost 60% Americans are said to be unhappy with their president. 55% disapprove of his handling of this war. Irrespective, Israel is doubling down, expanding the scope of its operations. So far, they were limited to North Gaza, but now they want to target the south. Israel dropped new leaflets in South Gaza today asking locals to leave. Plus, communication lines are down. Mobile and internet services are down across the strip. Israel could be gearing up to launch a bigger attack. Some World Cup news now, not that you need it. The whole country knows who are the finalists. India and Australia. The men in blue have been on a roll. They have won 10 matches on the bounce. If they win the final, it will be 11 victories in a row. Only Australia have done that before. And what does that mean? It means India has been playing some really good cricket. Not if you ask Pakistani experts though. They will tell you about conspiracies. How India is playing with a different ball, how the coin toss has been rigged, how even the technology is pro-India. Now I know what you're thinking. These must be some random, little-known Pakistani experts, pundits trying to grab eyeballs. Well, think again. We are talking about people who played for the Pakistani cricket team, former international cricketers. Listen to their stunning analysis.
कुछ DRS डिसीजन जो हैं वो भी इंडिया के फेवर में बहुत ज़्यादा गए हैं. थ्रू आउट 8 से मेरे ख्याल में 7 से 8 DRS ऐसे हुए हैं कि बड़े क्लोज थे वो, और जो कि वो क्लोज टू द स्टंप्स भी रहे हैं, LBW भी रहे हैं, वो इंडिया के फेवर्स में गए हैं. बॉल में हसन भी अभी भी कोई गड़बड़ है? आप देखिए गड़बड़ नो डाउट गड़बड़ का एक टॉपिक तो ऐसा था कि मैंने तो बॉलें मैन्युफैक्चर नहीं बनाई ना, मगर मैंने वही बताया था कि बॉल का उन्स होता है, एक पाउंड होता है, कितने पाउंड की बॉल होती है, उसका जो ऑन्स है कितना हैवी होता है, कितना लाइट होता है, मैंने बताया था. और वो दो चीजें ऐसी थी कि जहां पर लाइट बॉल होगा वहां पर स्पिन होना शुरू हो जाएगा बॉल.
रोहित शर्मा जब टॉस करते हैं वो दूर फेंकते हैं जी, और दूसरा कैप्टन जाके कभी नहीं देखता कि वो सही उसने कॉल.
How about that? We've heard about manipulating the ball. We know that technology is often unreliable, but toss manipulation deserves a special mention. How do you even rig a coin? It's conspiracy on steroids. Former cricketer Wasim Akram has responded to all these claims, and I must say he is on point. On the ball controversy, this is what he said. I want to have the same thing these guys are having. Sounds like fun because their mind is not there. If you want to get yourselves humiliated, do it, but don't do the same to us in front of the entire world. Perfectly put. On the toss controversy, here's what he said. I feel embarrassed. I don't even want to comment on it. And you can't blame him, because this is not punditry, it's a joke. And if you think Pakistan's cricket experts cannot go any lower, you are wrong. They can be sexist too, like Abdul Razak.
ये है कि मैं ईश्वर ऐसे शादी करूं और वहां से बड़ा नेक परहेजगार बच्चा पैदा हो तो कभी भी नहीं हो सकता.
Razak was speaking at a promotional event for the T20 World Cup. He was talking about intentions, how progress will come if your intention is right. Unfortunately, his wasn't. Razak considers Indian actor Aishwarya Rai to be morally corrupt. Why? I'm assuming because of a career choice. A self-made woman with a voice of her own, of course she has to be mocked. It reveals how narrow and patriarchal his thinking is. And not just him, even the players around him like Shahid Afridi. He's seen having a good laugh with Abdul Razak. Razak has now apologized for that comment. He says it was a slip of the tongue. Now, I don't know what is more infuriating, his comments or his clarification. Because let's be clear here. This was not a slip of the tongue. Razak meant every word of what he said, and he's not unique. Let me tell you about some Pakistani men in power like Khwaja Asif, Pakistan's former defense minister. In June this year, he stood up in the country's parliament. He had a few words for the female leaders in opposition, and this is what he said.
ये बाकियात है, खंडरात है उनके, जनाब स्पीकर, ये खंडरात है उनके, ये उनका कूड़ा करकट बाकी रह गया हुआ है.
He says the women leaders are trash, garbage left over by former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Tells you what the problem is. Here in South Asia, two groups of people are very influential, politicians and cricketers. It's the same in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And with influence comes responsibility. But I guess not for some. When you peddle conspiracies, you're influencing the next generation. You're telling them it is okay to do so. Same with sexist jokes. When you crack them, young people do the same. They think if Abdul Razak can do it, why can't I? After all, Abdul Razak is a decorated cricketer. He is a World Cup winner for Pakistan. We say this attitude needs to change. It's among the many things in Pakistan, in fact, that must change. But like the rest of it, expectations are low. Speaking of low expectations, it doesn't get lower than the meeting between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden. We told you about it yesterday. They discussed cars, Taiwan, trade and politics. But Biden nearly dropped the ball. After the talks, he spoke to the media. Biden was asked whether Xi Jinping was a dictator. A no comment would have been nice, but Joe Biden said yes, that Xi was indeed a dictator. Now, we showed you that statement yesterday. What we did not show you was the reaction from Biden's top diplomat, Antony Blinken. You have to watch this.
Mr. President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is the guy who runs a country that is a communist country that is based on a form of government totally different than ours.
Did you see his face? Blinken looks like your school dance teacher. He's taught everyone well, but on stage, one kid has messed up. In this case, the kid happens to be the President of the United States. Jokes aside, this was serious. Biden and Xi claimed to have productive talks, but this statement could have derailed everything. China called it political manipulation.
This kind of statement is extremely incorrect and irresponsible political manipulation, which China resolutely opposes. It needs to be pointed out that there are always some ill-intentioned individuals attempting to sow discord and damage Sino-US relations, but their attempts will not succeed.
This is what Blinken feared, but strangely, things have not unraveled. Yes, China criticized Biden's statement, but the commentary in China remains positive. Look at the People's Daily. It says Xi was warmly welcomed by Biden, that the talks were a new starting point for US-China relations. Same in the Global Times. It says the meeting was strategic, historic, directional and forward-looking. That's a lot of adjectives. Too many for a Chinese mouthpiece, which means Beijing is happy with the visit. If not, trust me, we would have known. The headlines would have been about Biden's great betrayal. How he invited and then insulted Xi Jinping. So why aren't they? Because right now, China needs this relationship to work. Just look at their economic data. China's GDP was supposed to grow at 5.2% this year. It's now been revised. The new estimate is 5%. Foreign investors are also leaving the country. In the third quarter, around $12 billion was pulled out from China, meaning there was an investment deficit. More money was taken out than invested in China. It was the first deficit since 1998. To change all this, China needs America's help. They need the sanctions to be loosened. They also need friends in Washington, hence the outreach. Just look at the key takeaways from this meeting. China agreed to crack down on fentanyl. China also agreed to resume military communications with the US. They also set up a hotline. All of this was demanded by Joe Biden. And China agreed to all of it. But on the other side, what did Xi Jinping get? A couple of standing ovations, a garden walk with Biden, and some good pictures. Nothing concrete on the policy front, not even a commitment that the US will ease the sanctions. Yet, China's state media is happy. Why do you think that is? Because that is precisely what Xi Jinping wanted. He was not looking for major political gains. He's experienced enough to know that's impossible right now. What he wanted was a reset. Like the People's Daily said, a new starting point.
China never bets on the US to lose, never interferes in US's internal affairs, and has no intention to challenge or replace the United States. China welcomes a confident, open, developing, and prosperous United States. The realization of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation cannot be achieved without a peaceful and stable international environment.
That last bit is quite frank. He says China cannot advance without a peaceful international environment. And right now, the world is not at peace. There are two major wars going on, dozens of civil wars and ethnic conflicts. All of them have hurt the global economy. It is also dragging down China's growth. So in simple words, Xi Jinping may be ready to challenge the US, but his country and its economy are not. It needs time and help to recover, which is why Xi Jinping was such a grateful guest. Earlier this year, China wouldn't even grant an audience to the Pentagon chief, but now they're looking past Biden's insults. Tells you the equations have changed. But the intentions? Maybe not. China's original strategy was to hide its strength and bide its time. That was their slogan, hide your strength and bide your time, to slowly and gradually challenge the US. Xi Jinping threw out that strategy. He was a man in a hurry, so he openly challenged the United States, but now his own economy is paying the price. So what does he do? Go back to biding his time. It's unlikely that Xi has changed his plans to dominate the world. It's more of a delay, which means the ball is now in America's court. They've got the upper hand in this relationship. What they do next is up to Biden. Does he squeeze China and risk endangering the ties? Or does he try to build a working relationship? His choice could determine the future of China-US ties. So Xi Jinping is singing a different tune, but America does not trust him. Biden still calls Xi Jinping a dictator. He's roping in more allies and strengthening American defenses against China. America has its eye on the Indo-Pacific. The Philippines is the linchpin of this new American game plan. Washington and Manila have signed a new deal. It's about nuclear power. No, not nuclear missiles. This is about nuclear power. They're calling it the 1-2-3 agreement. The Philippines wants nuclear energy, and they're working on the infrastructure, but they lack two important pieces. First, the equipment to generate nuclear power, and second, nuclear material, the kind that is needed for the reactors. And this is where America comes in.
When this agreement goes into effect, the United States will be able to share equipment and material with the Philippines as they work to develop small modular reactors and other civilian nuclear energy infrastructure.
The US will provide the missing pieces to the Philippines. They're also promising investments. And what does Manila get from this? Energy independence, according to President Marcos.
Nuclear energy is one area where we can show that the Philippines-US alliance and partnership truly works for our peoples, our economies, and the environment.
Sounds like a win-win. Biden is paying attention to the Philippines, especially on the defense front. Last month, Washington gave $100 million to Manila. What for? This is foreign military financing. The Philippines wants some new choppers. They're considering the Chinook helicopter, a made-in-America weapon. So this money will probably be used there. And the Philippines is important for the US. Biden is not the only president to recognize this. His predecessors also liked to keep Manila close. From 2015 to 2022, the Philippines got more than $1 billion from the US. This was American military assistance, more than $1 billion. Manila is the largest recipient of it in the Indo-Pacific. Expect this assistance to continue and for Washington to cut more checks to Manila, because the US has some prime real estate to protect. Take a look at this map. What does it show? American bases in the Philippines, the military sites that US forces have access to. How many are there? 9 bases. America has access to 9 bases in the Philippines. Earlier, the US had access to 5 of them. But this year, they signed a new deal, and that gave the US access to 4 more bases. So they now have a total of 9. Now let's zoom out a bit. Look where these bases are. In the neighborhood of the South China Sea and Taiwan, 2 of the biggest flashpoints if the US and China ever go to war, their biggest bones of contention, Taiwan and the South China Sea. If war breaks out, these bases will play a big role. They will have front row seats to the action. Now, the US does not have a lot of soldiers in the Philippines. In February this year, just 500 American troops were there, but Washington and Manila have close military ties. They hold many training exercises together. Thousands of troops participate. So a large American contingent keeps flying in and out of the Philippines. And the pattern is evident. US military presence is expanding, and the Philippines is central to America's plans. What does that mean for the rest of us, for this region? America is bolstering its defense against China while also talking to it. And it's also making the region more volatile. The Indo-Pacific is becoming a more dangerous place. Now let's turn our attention to India, where a rescue operation is slowly gaining ground. 40 men are trapped in a tunnel, 40, in the mountainous state of Uttarakhand. These are construction workers. They were carving out the tunnel, but on Sunday morning, part of it gave way. Landslides reportedly caused part of the tunnel to collapse. Debris blocked off the tunnel's entrance, leaving the 40 men trapped. Reports say no one was injured, but they've been in this tunnel for 5.5 days now, waiting to get rescued. Here's our report.
It's a tense situation in the Indian state of Uttarakhand. There was a construction accident up in the Himalayas. On Sunday morning, part of an under-construction tunnel collapsed. Reports say landslides caused it to partially cave in, blocking off the tunnel's entrance, leaving 40 members of a construction crew trapped inside. This was on Sunday morning. At about 5:30 a.m. local time, it's been about 5.5 days, and those 40 men are still trapped. According to reports, they haven't sustained any injuries, but the debris from the collapse has sealed them inside. A pile of debris 60 meters wide. The pipe bringing them oxygen during construction was damaged. So it's a precarious situation. The oxygen supply is being maintained through another pipe, one initially used to supply water to the construction site. Now that water pipe is an all-purpose lifeline. It's being used to send oxygen, water, food and medicine. Anything the workers need. That pipe has been sustaining the 40 men as they wait to be rescued. The tunnel collapsed on Sunday morning. Rescue work began almost immediately, but there have been setbacks. Initially, authorities tried going after the debris with excavators, essentially digging a path straight to the construction crew, but that plan didn't work. Whatever debris the excavator would remove, more would fall to take its place. The rescue team tried stopping new debris using quick-drying concrete, but it wasn't working. So the rescuers had to move to Plan B, which is digging a hole through the debris. Specialized equipment was flown in from India's capital, New Delhi. A horizontal driller. The machine is large. Military planes brought it in parts, and it was put together at the tunnel's entrance. The driller has been at work since yesterday, slowly making its way through the 60-meter pile of debris. It's a slow and steady process. The slightest change in angle would require the rescuers to start over. The plan is to make a tunnel within the tunnel. The driller will leave a hole through the debris. A steel pipe will then be placed there. And the trapped workers will make their way out through the pipe. This hole through the debris needs to be straight to put the pipe in, so they can't afford any mistakes. As of this afternoon, the driller had cut through 24 meters of debris. There's another 36 meters to go. At the present rate of about a meter per hour, that means they'll reach the workers by late Saturday or early Sunday. Just in case of any problems with the driller, a backup has also been arranged.
At present,
we have reached 24 meters inside the tunnel, which according to me is a good situation, and we are trying to reach the other end as soon as possible. Like I said yesterday, if the present machinery becomes redundant, another machine from Indore will get airlifted.
It's a delicate operation. India has sought expert advice from multiple nations with past experience. Thailand's 2018 cave rescue team has been contacted.
In 2018, a junior football team got stuck in a cave in Thailand. They were stuck for 18 days, but Thailand pulled off a successful rescue. Thailand's expertise could help India. India has also reached out to the Norwegian Geotechnical Institute. Multiple options are being explored as the rescue work continues. The entire focus being on ending the ordeal for the 40 trapped workers.
Now let's turn our attention to Zimbabwe. It's a country in southern Africa, home to about 16 million people. It's suffering from multiple crises at the moment. There's a cholera outbreak in Zimbabwe. Dozens of people have died in the capital, Harare. The city has about 7,000 suspected cases. Today, the government declared a state of emergency. It is scrambling to provide clean water. There's an acute shortage. And this is leading to cholera outbreaks across the country. The same thing happened in 2018. They declared an emergency then too. And between 2008 and 2009, more than 4,000 people died due to cholera. So Zimbabwe is well aware of the dangers of cholera. And the cases have been on the rise for months. So why did the government not take action earlier? Because it was busy with another crisis, a political crisis that is greatly aiding the regime. Zimbabwe has been ruled by one party for 36 years. The Zimbabwe Africa National Union Patriotic Front, better known as ZANU-PF. For 30 of these years, between 1987 and 2017, Zimbabwe was under this man, Robert Mugabe. He was ousted in 2017 in a military coup. And he was replaced by his own vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. That's the current president of Zimbabwe. He was re-elected in August this year in disputed elections. Ballots were delayed in opposition strongholds. There were accusations of voter intimidation, beatings and torture, and election observers were arrested. That doesn't really scream free and fair. But the election was still close. Mnangagwa was taken to the wire by his main opponent, this man, Nelson Chamisa, of the Citizens Coalition for Change Party, better known as CCC. When the dust settled, Zimbabwe's parliament looked like this. Out of 280 members, 177 were from the ruling party, 103 from the opposition. What's important to note here is that the ruling party had less than a two-thirds majority. And why is that important? Because you need a two-thirds majority to change Zimbabwe's constitution. That is the law. The president does not have this majority, but he's trying to get it. Which brings us to two questions, why and how. Let's answer the first one first. Why? Why does he want to change the constitution? Perhaps to abolish term limits. Zimbabwe has a two-term limit for the president. It was introduced after the 2017 coup to ensure that a reign like Mugabe is not repeated. But the president has other ideas. And how will he do it? By crushing the opposition. Just take a look at what's happening. The opposition is imploding. One of their own leaders keeps disqualifying party members. Last month, he disqualified 15 people. This week, he withdrew 18 others. In 2 months, the opposition is down by 33 members because some random member of their own party said he has disqualified them. Yes, it's as absurd as it sounds. But how is it allowed? This appeal, disqualification appeal, is made to the head of parliament, who just happens to be from the ruling party and who obviously is quite happy to accept these disqualifications. But how does it help? It opens up the prospect of by-elections. When the ruling party can try and tighten its grip on power in a by-election and get closer to the two-third mark. And that's what they're doing, by any means necessary. On Monday, an opposition leader was found dead. He'd been abducted while campaigning for a by-election. And he was not the only leader to be kidnapped. 2 others were abducted in the last few weeks. They were later found on the outskirts of the capital, beaten and tortured. Critics say it's a case of systematic state capture. The government, of course, denies all of this. They say they're being framed. But then what do you expect them to say? The truth will perhaps reveal itself after Zimbabwe's by-election. We'll keep you updated as this story unfolds. In the world of politics, image is king. It's all people see and vote for. So what do you do if you want to portray yourself as a Soviet icon or even a cuddly lion? You turn to artificial intelligence. It's happening in Argentina. The country is going to polls on Sunday, and it's being called the world's first AI election. Why? Because of the two top contenders and their love for artificial intelligence. There are AI-generated posters. There are AI-generated campaign videos. There are deep fakes too. Because who needs human creativity when algorithms can create the perfect political masterpieces? But while Argentinian polls have become a testing ground for AI, not everyone is happy about it. Our next report tells you why.
A revolutionary trend is sweeping through Argentina, and it's affecting its campaign posters. Argentina is going to polls soon. On one side, there's Javier Milei, a far-right populist leader, and on the other is Sergio Massa, the main unity candidate. The two have very little in common, except one thing. They're both using artificial intelligence to power their campaigns. Gone are the days of meticulously crafted slogans or smiling faces chosen by your PR team. Introducing AI-generated election posters. You can basically be anyone in a minute, and that's what Milei and Massa hope to achieve. Look at this poster. It is of Sergio Massa. It has a Soviet flair to it. Surrounded by hundreds of people, they look serious. They are looking at him for hope. Javier Milei too had one such poster, but he wasn't just any leader. Instead, this poster showed him as a cuddly cartoon lion, surrounded by happy Argentinians. Now, Soviet leader and lion are on nobody's minds when you make campaign posters. But this is exactly what these leaders wanted. In fact, their teams spent hours deciding on what prompts they should enter, on how to make their leaders relatable. Artificial intelligence just made their jobs easier, it seems. But while Argentina may have taken a bold leap, aka using AI for posters, not everybody is happy for it. Harmless AI-generated posters are one thing, but malicious deepfakes are quite another. And these deepfakes are spreading all across Argentina. It makes it difficult for people to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, what is real and what is fake, a necessity during any election. Argentina isn't the only one. AI in elections have countries concerned. There are deepfakes, malicious videos. 58% Americans think AI will increase fake news during elections next year. And it is not just us. UK too says AI poses a threat to the country's general elections in 2025. India too is concerned.
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के कारण और उसमें भी डीप फेक के कारण जो एक नया संकट आ रहा है, भारत का बहुत बड़ा वर्ग ऐसा है कि उसके पास वेरिफिकेशन के लिए या ऑथेंटिफाई करने के लिए कोई उसके पास पैरेलल व्यवस्था नहीं है। और बाय एंड लार्ज आजादी की लड़ाई से लेकर के भारत में जिस भी चीजें से मीडिया शब्द जुड़ता है उसकी एक इज्जत है। जैसे कोई भी व्यक्ति हो गेरुए हुए कपड़े हैं तो हमारे यहां एक स्वाभाविक उसके विरासत में इज्जत मिल जाती है उसको, वैसा मीडिया को भी है, एक विरासत का लाभ उसको मिलता है। और उसके कारण डीप फेक हो तो भी वो भरोसा कर लेता है यार ऐसे थोड़ा आया होगा, कुछ तो होगा। और ये बहुत बड़े संकट की तरफ जाएगा समाज में।
Of course, artificial intelligence is dangerous, and tech giants are waking up to it. Meta and Google have issued warnings. Election ads using AI-generated content must disclose that fact. So they are trying to create safeguards. But the question is, will it work? One thing is for certain. Politics has never been so algorithmic as we see today. Computer-generated charm is great. But where does this synthetic charisma leave you? Are we just in a new era of campaigning? Or is it a rabbit hole down to a Matrix-like scenario? Either way, buckle up for the ride. By the looks, the future of politics will be coded in ones and zeros.
It's Friday evening, so let's talk about fashion too. The landscape of fashion is ever-changing, trends come and go. But the line between avant-garde and ridiculous is very thin. And it looks like Balenciaga has crossed that line once again. They have a new item for sale. It's called a towel skirt. I know it sounds weird, but I will give them some credit. It is quite literal. It looks exactly like it sounds. That is a draped towel. And what's special about this Balenciaga item? It's the price tag. This towel skirt is selling for $925. That's about 77,000 Indian rupees. If it sounds insane, trust me, it is. Our next report tells you all about this new bizarre fashion clothing.
Move over, haute couture. It's time for some high absorbency chic, aka Balenciaga's towel skirt. It's made of grey terry cloth. It's mid-rise, with 2 buttons at the waistline. So, just like any knee-length skirt. Plus, it's a unisex product, so everyone can rock it. But maybe they already have. Because it looks exactly like how you would when you walk out of a shower with a towel draped. And if that did not leave the internet in splits, the price truly has them shocked. The item retails on the Balenciaga site for $925. That's 77,000 rupees, all for the humble towel. The internet is already mocking this product. They called out the ridiculous price. They questioned who would wear it. IKEA even came out with its own version, but that only costs $16. But the bigger question is, did Balenciaga not know all of this? Did they not look at it and think, towel? Or did they just want to break the internet? It's probably the second answer, and that's the case with a lot of bizarre fashion items. Take this pair of Zara jeans, for example. It's called the Inside Out jeans. Basically, you take your jeans and wear them inside out. You and I can do that for free, so why would we pay a premium for it? Then there are these distressed stockings by Gucci. Imagine you have a pair of stockings and you rip them by mistake. That's exactly what these look like. Now, I know distressed is a popular trend, but that's for jeans, not $190 stockings. And I could go on and on. Upside down glasses by Gucci, in case you wanted a unique take on the world. The baguette bag by Moschino, in case you need a snack to carry around. Balenciaga's trash bags, because it's never a wrong time to take out trash. There are just way too many examples of ridiculous fashion. Or, more often than not, it's about creating a frenzy. You may not buy it, but you're definitely talking about it. And that's good enough for the brands. As they say, any publicity is good publicity. So, as this towel skirt goes viral, it looks like the red carpet has finally met the bath mat. But why stop at towels? Why not a bathrobe ball gown or a loofah clutch? The possibilities are endless. That said, you can be a trendsetter, or you can be a trend questioner. But one thing is for certain, the world of fashion is never short of surprises, and the only constant is the unexpected. In this case, the current rage is the thing that is drying off in your bathroom right now.
Finally, it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Brazil, Taylor Swift receives a unique welcome as Christ the Redeemer lights up ahead of the Eras Tour. In Nevada, Formula One drivers race each other in the desert ahead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And in Australia, the house where Hitler was born, in Austria rather, the house where Hitler was born, is being turned into a police station. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1869, the Suez Canal opened in Egypt. After 10 years of construction, it connected the Mediterranean and the Red Seas, becoming the shortest sea route between Europe and Asia. Today, the Suez Canal is one of the world's most heavily used shipping routes. We leave you on that note. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.
NASA has seized the canal. 1/3 of its traffic is British.